name is Sonia Lovell, and I am obsessed with helping women navigate the magical, messy, and let's be honest, more hysterical moments of this thing called menopause. I'm a personal trainer and breast cancer survivor turned menopause coach. I help women understand what's going on, why, and what they can do to navigate the menopausal transition. Gloss over the real talk? No way! Exhaustion, brain fog, loss of libido, loss of confidence, and anxiety are just some of the topics that we'll chat about. Consider this a juicy happy hour with your new bestie and her friends. Settle in and get ready to learn and laugh. This is the Dare Menopause podcast. Alison Brahe Daddo was a household name in the 90s. An entire generation of Australians grew up alongside Ali, and now we find ourselves going through menopause with her. Alison Brahe Daddo is my guest today, and she has made no secret of the fact that she struggled through menopause. And what I love so much about this book and also this chat with Alison is that she brings a sense of grace and comfort. Settle in, grab a cuppa, and enjoy this really beautiful chat with Alison Brahe Daddo. Hey, Ali, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure, Sonia. My pleasure.
I'd like to start off by, first of all, congratulating you on your new book, Queen Menopause. It's incredible, and we'll go into why soon. I also want to thank you. I want to thank you for being my guest on this interview, but I also want to thank you for writing this book. I'll be honest, I was actually really surprised at the amount of depth that you went into in regards to menopause in general, but also the in-depth conversations that you had in the book with yourself, with respect to your relationship. So I'm really keen to dive into a whole heap of that with you today.
I'd love to.
Beautiful. Now, we'd like to start off by reading a little chapter from the book because this passage really resonated with me and is I think something that we have in common when it comes to this topic. So this is from page 87, and it says, "That's part of the deep sense of feeling alone in this change. It's all me and it's all you too. Partners, children, or books are not going to assist me to feel any better unless I open myself up and truly allow them to. It's been work and continues to be work for me to change my attitude about my menopause and my ever-changing body and mind, consciously taking steps, no matter how small, towards being okay with all of my symptoms." I just think that's so important that we talk about the aspect of feeling alone through menopause. So my first question that I thought I'd jump into with you is, by sharing your story with so much honesty and realness, what did you hope to achieve?
Look, I really, really wanted women, there was multiple layers to what I really wanted. I really wanted women, to know about what you might possibly feel going into menopause. If only it was menopause. Going into perimenopause, I wanted women to be prepared physically about going into perimenopause, and I really wanted women to know that what they were feeling and going through, more so emotionally and mentally more than anything, was actually normal and you were not losing your mind. I really wanted the partners of women and the children or anyone in the house sharing a house or a life with a menopausal woman. I wanted them to understand what the woman was going through. I just wanted, I wanted it all. I just wanted women to feel like, hey, I got you. Let's talk about this. It's a normal thing. And what I also really wanted, which was super important to me, was what happens post-menopausal? What can we look forward to? Because we hear all the doom and gloom about menopause. We hear all the crap. We hear all the life changes and this and that and the weight gain. Is there a silver lining? Is there something I can look forward to? And there is. And I really wanted that to be a big part of the book as well. So we're not just, drowning in our sorrows.
Yeah, and as someone who's also postmenopausal, completely agree with you that I know from my own personal lived experience what comes after the shitstorm that is perimenopause. And for me, it was an induced menopause. So it was like a super shitstorm. But the power and the confidence and this new woman that you evolve into is worth the shit. It really is.
It is. And I feel for women like yourself, I mean, it's kind of like I liken it to, you know, if someone is having a baby and you're in labor and they just give you the medicine that immediately gives you all the contractions at once. Mm-hmm. It's like that. You have no way to breathe into it and to follow your symptoms and sort of gear up. But if you're into that straight away, the ovaries and uterus or whatever has happened, you know, induced menopause, that's a tough road. So hats off to you.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's funny because I've used that exact analogy with people. It's like, it's like the difference between having an induced labour and going into labour naturally. Yep. It is literally like just getting hit by a bus. But we're not here to talk about me. One of the things that I loved the most about the book was you share these journal entries, which is really so insightful. It gives you and you're so real and raw with what you do share in your journal entries. You also share these beautiful letters that you write to yourself, to your different parts of you. So you write a letter to your libido and you write a letter to your vagina. I love it. It's amazing. But you're also writing letters to Cam and you're writing letters to the kids, which, wow, that really resonated with me. Like, how often do we forget to include the kids in this conversation? And, you know, I think you and I have kids that are of similar age and they're living through it just as much as your partner's living through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what came first for you in this process? Was it the journaling? Was it the notion to write these letters? Like, how did all of that evolve for you?
Yeah, look, I was journaling anyway because I've always done journaling and particularly through challenging times, I find that journaling has been a lifesaver for me for many, many years. So I was always journaling anyway. The idea of putting it in the book didn't come until I started writing it, and I was a few months in, and I just thought I actually went to my journal to see what else can I write more about what I'm experiencing. And then I'm like, I'm actually just going to go word for word, which is exactly what is in the book. It's word for word what is in my journal. And I still kind of shake my head going, was that a really good idea? Because no one reads my journal, and here I am putting my most intimate thoughts down on paper. But it really made a lot of sense to me to have those entries in there because it was, as you say, it was as raw and as honest I could get, because it was, at that point in time, it was only me reading it. But I wanted it in there because I wanted it to be relatable to so many women that can't often put words to how they're feeling. Because even in my relationship with Cam and my conversation, I actually couldn't say those words to him. Like he was still lost in all the menopausal stuff. He still didn't get it because I couldn't communicate it as well as I could on paper. So that's what I really wanted to add that in there. So, yeah, it started off with just me going, I'm just going to write about how I feel. And then what ended up happening, though, what was really interesting, which I didn't expect from the book, was this thread that kept on taking me back through my life and going, oh, how does this connect with that experience and this experience and who I was as a young girl and what was I like going through puberty? How have I changed? How have I emerged through this experience of menopause? So it became this sort of through line of who actually am I now as a woman in comparison to who I was as a younger woman and as a teenager. And that really assisted me to write the book, and it really assisted me as a person to grow as I wrote the book as well.
And I love that. And I think for me, one of the biggest surprises for me from your book was how much of your personal story you share, which gave me an incredible insight to Alison Brahe, the person, as opposed to Alison Brahe, the dolly cover girl. You share so much about your journey through being such a young model and the impacts that had on you and into your adult life, the experience in Japan, that was life-changing and still, I would imagine, impacts you in different areas. That just really helps cement a connection with you. And I found you so incredibly relatable when you start then talking about your relationship with Cam, which you talk about very openly, particularly the loss of libido and the impact that that has on a relationship. And it's an area I'd really like to talk to you about a little bit, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Because I think this is an area where there is so many relationships that perhaps don't survive menopause because the men don't know how to talk about it, don't understand what's going on. The women don't know how to talk about it. There is shame, there is guilt, there is so many emotions that get caught up in this soup that we're literally trying to find our way through. Would you mind sharing with the audience a little bit about that impact that menopause had on your relationship?
Yeah, well, it impacted certainly physically, it definitely impacted. I totally lost my libido. And I feel like I lost it because of not only what was happening scientifically and medically, but also internally what I was attempting to just deal with day in and day out felt so overwhelming to me. Obviously I had a little extra challenge there because I had just moved from America to Australia. We'd been there for 25 years. I'd left all my friends, all my community, all my support. I had left in America. So I was here in Australia, not really having any friends, any support group around me. And women need that. And women really need that, I think, through this time, because we've got to be able to turn to our friend and go, holy crap, I feel like this, that, and the other. And I didn't have that. And that was hard. So I had, there was, as I said, there was all these different layers going on where that sort of exacerbated the loneliness that I was feeling. And I did feel like I didn't know quite what to do about this libido issue. And I couldn't force myself. I could not force myself to have sex. Like, it just was not in me. I didn't want to do it. I wasn't going to do it. I didn't feel I had to do it because I thought, my God, I've been married to this man for a long time. I'm not going to lay bare my body and go through some kind of painful experience to keep him happy. I could not do that. So it was really hard because, as I've said many times, and understanding this from Cam's point of view, his whole love language is touch. And it's physical, and that's how he feels close to me. And once he feels physically close to me, he's all right. Everything's all right with the world. Yep. And he wasn't getting that. And so he was really confused and really concerned and didn't know what to say. And he just thought it was about, I wasn't attracted to him anymore. It was not that. I would never want sex again. It wasn't that. And it was hard to sort of explain again exactly like what was going on. It was just the last thing on my mind as well, was to have sex. That was the last thing. There was too many other things going on.
Yeah, I quite often describe it like I would rather have gone and had an upper lip wax than had sex.
Absolutely. Just, yeah. I think I say in the book, I'd rather just walk to the fridge and get a piece of chocolate. And again, that's why I really wanted to write that chapter for the partners, because how hard would that be for the partners? Here we are, everything's going along seemingly okay. We're still making love. And then, wait, you don't want to do it anymore? You don't want me to touch you? Like, when is this going to stop? When is this? You're angry with me? What did I do? It's all very, very confusing. There is a lot of separation and divorce around our age. And
I love, you share a story in the book actually about a gentleman that came up to you. Yes. I think you had a conversation with an older gentleman. Can you share that with us? Because I thought that was an amazing insight and so honest of him to share with you.
It was such a big impetus for me to know that I was on the right track about writing about menopause, and particularly around the partnership in menopause. So yeah, we were just at some event and he was this lovely fellow, probably late 60s, I think. And he said, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm a teacher and I'm writing a book. Oh, what's your book about? I said, oh, something you'll never be interested in. It's about menopause. And he said, I wish I had have read more about menopause, because maybe I could have saved my marriage. My wife went through so much and we couldn't stay together. And it was heartbreaking to hear that, because it had been a few years, it had been like 10 years, but it's still like the depth of his sorrow was still really there. And I thought, oh man, if we can save some relationships by, talking about this, and it would be really, really important.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I think it also goes to show that he had obviously made some connection at some point in time that she was going through menopause at the point in time where their marriage was breaking up. And look, not every marriage that breaks up in that period of time will be because of menopause. There are many reasons why marriages break up.
And should break up.
And should break up 100%. Yeah. Talk to me about how you and Cam navigated that. Like, what was your process to keep Cam on side, and you being educated and then having to support him as well through that?
Yeah, look, it's still actually challenging in a lot of ways, because it was like dropping a bomb a little bit on the marriage. And he only just finished reading my book from cover to cover about a week ago. And he, because I'd given him little bits and pieces, and I said, is it okay if I put this in? And he said, anything you want to put in, I'm supportive of. So he was away when he took the book. He was away on a job, and he read the book, and he sent me a photograph of himself in bed holding the book. And he said, honey, I think you wrote this book for me.
Oh,
I know. It was so sweet. And I thought about it and I went, yeah, maybe I did.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, because he got to really understand me at a very different level, and all of the things that were going on for me. So there, as I said earlier, it was difficult for me to put everything into words. But what we really had to do was to start communicating. I would send him little articles on menopause. I would talk to him about what I discovered. I had attempted to talk to him about what my body was feeling, how I was feeling so fat and unattractive, and therefore I didn't want him to sort of see me naked. And he was like, I think you're gorgeous. I don't see it at all. And I was like, I don't believe you. So, and then we just finally, when we finally separated it from this feeling that there was something wrong with me, because that's where I kept getting caught, that I felt like he was saying there was something wrong with me, why I didn't want to have sex. And I said, can we just remove that and make that a separate entity? And so the two of us, like, are figuratively holding hands and looking at this issue of sex and making love. Let's look at it together from the same side and go, how do we get there? How do the both of us get there to work to a place where we are physically intimate again? And where does that start? And it's sort of relearning ways that, where touch feels okay, it doesn't feel okay. And just doing smaller intimate moments, just lying in bed kissing or whatever it is, that he's satisfied and that I'm satisfied as well, that both of us feel okay with it, because he's really important to me and he's been very supportive. So I didn't want to just go, what, that's it, I'm done for sex. Sorry.
Yeah.
But, that's it. We're 52 and 57 and a sex life is over. I did not want to say that to him. So we needed to find our way through that.
It's also one of the really important messages that I hope gets across to all women and men and women that have female partners, right? Whoever you're in a relationship with, that this isn't forever. It is a short term, and it might feel like it's long term when you're going through it, but it is something that shifts and changes and evolves, and you do come out the other side. The other area that I found raw and where you were very open about in the book was your experience with a little bit of depression, the dark hours, I think you referred to them as, the anxiety and those sorts of things. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, by far, I would say that was the hardest part, because I just felt like my brain had been taken over by somebody else, something else. And all of those places and people and things that used to bring me so much joy no longer brought me joy. And I was terrified a lot of the time of where my brain was starting to create and tick over these really crazy thoughts. My family would be better off without me. I'm just a miserable human and I don't care. I don't care if I'm not alive anymore. I don't care if I don't care about my kids. I don't care about my marriage. I don't care about my family. So what's the point? And it was, I could sort of I had this third person at the same time kind of standing off of here looking at me going, this is not you. You have never had these thoughts. You have dedicated your life to being a mum and a wife, and that's your greatest passion. Where are you going with these thoughts? And I didn't really know how to stop them. I really didn't know where they'd come from. They were just there. And that was really scary to me. And I didn't want to see anyone. Those thoughts I didn't talk about with anyone. I just was like, I can't say this out loud because this sounds too evil, too bad. Like it was just horrifying to me. So I never spoke about that. I did write it. And again, that was probably a bit of a lifesaver for me. And then again, as I progressed through and got some help and, I was like, oh, okay, this is all part of what can be perimenopause. Okay, I'm all right,
Yeah. And so talk to me about the help that you then were able to seek. What were the steps that you took to get help?
Yeah, the things, it was funny because I was researching it at the same time. So I was sort of trying all the things that I was reading about. And they were little things like asking for a hug. That was really a really big deal. In the deepest part of my depression, I would ask for a hug. And it was amazing how much better just a little thing like that helped. Looking to find ways to laugh. Searching out, turning off the news. I couldn't watch the news. It was too depressing. So anything that triggered me into feeling sad, I avoided. So I looked to happy movies. I read funny books. I got out in nature. They were the things that really helped. And I started moving my body more because I'd stopped moving my body. And so it was all of those things that I'd been reading about anyway that I knew I was going to put in the book. I was like, well, I got to try this. And those things, mental health wise, really started to work. I saw my naturopath, who's just the most divine human. And she does energetic healing. She does clearing. She does kinesiology. She does all sorts of stuff. So she would spend an hour and a half with me working on physically what I was going through and also mentally and emotionally as well. Cam and I did see a relationship therapist as well. That was really helpful, talking things out. So we took a fair bit of action when it came to assisting, ourselves and myself through it. So yeah, some of those things that my naturopath really, really made a difference. And, sometimes I didn't go HRT, and I think HRT is a bloody miracle. And I know so many women that have had the best results from that. And sometimes I go, should I have just gone and jumped in there? Would it have been a quicker fix? Or I don't know, but it was just the way I'd always treated myself. I'd always gone the naturopathic way. So that's the place that I took myself. But, I am not, I have to make that really clear because I've had a bit of feedback from people from the book, an article saying I'm against HRT. I'm so not against HRT. I'm just, what I'm for is you do the best thing that is for you. It is your body autonomy. And if you want to go hell for leather on HRT or drinking elephant pee, whatever works.
Oh my God, elephant pee, no. that just brings the image to mind. We don't need that.
It's just what worked for me. I am not an expert on menopause. I'm an expert on my menopause, but I am not an expert on menopause at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important to always remember and respect that what works for one person may not necessarily work for somebody else. And I would love to exist in a world where the two can work together.
Yeah, absolutely.
unfortunately, we're not in that place right now. There still seems to be that, well, if you like this, then you don't like that.
Yes.
Because there can be so many benefits gained by bringing the two together.
And how about this? How about we say, and it's all free? Because that's the other thing. That's the other thing. Medically, every woman is going to hit menopause in some way, shape, or form. How about we make every alternative HRT, it's all free, because we're half the population. So
exactly. The other thing that I love in your book is that you do talk very much about the impact on your children. I know from my perspective, I have boys, so I never went through having conversations with children about periods. I mean, I talk about anything and everything with my boys. Like, honestly, they would be mortified. They often go, we go to other people's houses and they don't talk about things at the dinner table like you do. I'm like, and that is sad for them.
It's the exact same thing here. My son's boyfriend came and lived with us for 6 months, and we have dinner religiously every night at the dinner table. It's the favorite part of the day. And he would sit there and you'd see his eyes grow big, and he'd just shake his head. And I'm like, he goes, I have never heard a family talk so explicitly about so many things at the dinner table. And I was like, really?
He hadn't been to our house then either, obviously.
Really? Yeah.
But one of the things that I really connected with in your book is the impact that our mood swings, probably more than anything, the rage, the snapping, it can be the simplest, smallest thing that triggers you into flying off the handle. And whoever's closest to you is going to be on the end of that. And oftentimes that is our kids. So I think it's really important that, and you address this in the book, that we explain to our kids what's going on as well and why we're feeling the way that we're feeling, and allow them the opportunity to provide us with some empathy and some space when we need it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, that can be a really simple conversation. It's just literally like, I'm going through a lot right now, and if I seem angry or snap at you, it's got nothing to do with you. And I apologize in advance, and you can always come back and apologize once you've snapped at them as well, because kids they are so sensitive in thinking, what have I done wrong? What have I done? Mum's mad with me. And it's like, once they know that you're not mad with them, it helps enormously. So, I spent a lot of time just removing myself, just like, I have to get out of here because I am going to snap. And I think I kept it pretty well with my kids. Like Cam bore some brunt of that. But yeah, I removed myself from things that normally I would like to do with them. Like when they'd go out somewhere, I'd be like, nah, I'm going to stay at home by myself. Things like that. I just need some time alone. I can't do that with you guys. I'm not into it. I don't want to sit and watch TV with you tonight. So those sorts of things, I just kept removing myself. And they'd ask if I was okay, and I would be like, yeah, I am okay, though there's a lot of feelings coming up, and I'm working through them. And I think if you let them know I'm okay and I'm dealing with it, I've got it, that's also another thing, because I know, like, my eldest daughter is a worrier, and if she thought for a second that I didn't know what was going on or I was sick, it would worry her. So let them know, yep, I've got it. It's really hard, but I know what I'm doing and I'm okay. So.
Yeah, I think that's awesome advice. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. So what's next for Alison Daddo?
I know. I'm not sure. I love where I'm working at the moment. I'm working at a school 3 days a week teaching, and I just adore that job. So I'm so happy there. I loved the writing process. I would love to write more. I'm so, so happy to keep talking about menopause and bringing that out into the public arena and seeing what more we could do in that world. So I'm not sure. I don't. I'm as because I'm postmenopausal, Sonia. The world is my oyster.
Oh, yes, it is.
So whatever. I'm just excited for life. Really.
I love that. I love that so much, and I'm excited to see what comes from next for you, because I really feel like, you know, your book, you're obviously such a natural writer, and it's very special, and I highly recommend that every woman that can get a copy of this finds her way to your book and has a read of it. I've read a lot of books written by a variety of people, and yours is the one that I related with the most. So
thank you so much.
So thank you for that. I am going to link through to with you a few things in the show notes. I'm absolutely going to link through to your book. And I do hope that everybody goes and finds a copy of it themselves. Ali, I finish off by asking all of my guests this final question. What have you been reading, listening to, or watching lately that is bringing you joy?
Well, I am reading a book by Claire Bowditch called Your Own Kind of Girl. And it's a book that I'm relating to, just like my book, and, you know, how it is for you. She just writes so brilliantly about mental health and what she went through and how she pulls herself out of it. And I'm so inspired by that.
Yeah.
And then I started this new series with my daughter called The Serpent of Essex. Oh, it's so good. It's like this gothic ghost story set in ye old England, which I love all that stuff. I love the scenery. So I'm also really enjoying that one.
Oh, and where can we find that?
That is on Apple TV.
Okay, awesome. I will link to that in the show notes as well as Claire Bowditch's book, which I've also read. Ali, thank you so much for your time today. It has been an absolute pleasure. I wish you well in whatever you go on to do next. I know it will be amazing, because you are a strong, resilient, amazing woman.
Oh, thank you so much, Sonia. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for listening today. I am so grateful to have these conversations with incredible women and experts, and I'm grateful that you chose to hit play on this episode of Dear Menopause. If you have a minute of time today, please leave a rating or a review. I would love to hear from you, because you are my biggest driver for doing this work. If this chat went way too fast for you and you want more, head over to stellarwomen.com.au/podcast for the show notes. And while you're there, take my midlife quiz to see why it feels like midlife is messing with your head. Hey you. I wanted to let you know that the Stellar Circle membership is now open, with access to my little black book of guest experts who will host masterclasses and be available for Q&A to members only. You'll get coaching with me 1 to 2 times a month. You'll work on learning what the fuck is going on during peri and meno, what you can do to feel better, and be supported and empowered by myself and the private community of fellow members. Check it out at stellarwomen.com.au. I'll see you over at the Stellar Circle program.